Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into a really powerful account of the Ghulja Incident. Now, according to the source we're looking at, this isn't just some historical event. It's framed as a pivotal moment, a story of sacrifice and a great awakening for the Ogre people. So let's get into the story they tell.
So, February 5th, 1997, Ghulja. According to the account we're examining, this specific day, this exact place, it's a huge turning point. It's described as a great awakening, really, the moment an entire generation decided to choose defiance instead of just staying silent.
All right, so what exactly went down on that day? Well, according to this telling of the story, it all kicked off with a protest. But this wasn't just any protest. It was led by young people, completely unarmed, who went right out into the streets to face what they called the invader.
And this was their message, loud and clear. Think about that for a second. This land is our land. We do not recognize your laws, and we will not obey you. I mean, that's an incredibly direct challenge to state authority. The source really frames this as just an unbelievable act of courage, especially when you consider the power imbalance.
Okay, so you have to ask, right? What would drive these young people out into the freezing cold to do something so risky? To understand that, the source tells us we need to look back. It points to a long history of what it calls repressive policies that really set the stage for everything that happened in '97. And this timeline, which comes straight from the source's account, lays it all out. We're talking about decades of policies, from targeting intellectuals in the 50s to nuclear testing in their homeland in the 80s, and then forced birth control and, according to the source, even engineered unemployment and drug addiction in the 90s. The key point here, from this perspective, is that none of this was seen as random. It was viewed as a deliberate strategy to weaken Uyghur society and culture, creating this deep sense of crisis, especially for the youth. So, faced with what the source calls this engineered social decay, what happened? Well, a grassroots movement started bubbling up from the community itself, and it was all centered around bringing back a really important traditional institution. And that institution is called mashrab. Now, the speaker is really clear about this. Mashrab is way more than just a party or a cultural get-together. You should think of it more like a traditional folk school. It's a tool for building community, for teaching values, for restoring a sense of identity. Basically, a way to rebuild the social fabric from the inside out. Okay, let's dig into this a little deeper, because the source lays out some very specific goals. This mashrab revival, it wasn't just about, singing old songs. It was a super practical response to the real problems young people were facing. Things like reviving their faith, teaching them who they are, giving them a sense of purpose to fight unemployment, and even tackling drug and alcohol addiction. And get this, they even used football to promote physical health. But, as you might guess, this kind of community-led cultural revival didn't go unnoticed. According to this account, the authorities did not like it one bit, and the response was, well, pretty harsh, and it just kept getting worse.
And this is where you really see the clash, right? On one side, you have these young people trying to build up their community. They're organizing mashrab gatherings. They're playing football together. And on the other side, you have the state's response. The source says mashrab was declared illegal. People playing football were getting arrested. They even destroyed the football fields. It's presented as a total shutdown of any kind of community organizing. So you can see how this was all coming to a head. According to the speaker, this crackdown basically backed the youth into a corner. It created what they saw as an impossible situation. And that leads us right back to that fateful day, February 5th, 1997.
And the source really wants you to picture the scene. It was brutally cold that day. We're talking minus 20 degrees Celsius. That detail is there for a reason. It's meant to show you just how determined, how incredibly resolved these protesters were to be out there at all. So thousands of young men start marching. The account says they were carrying banners with the Islamic Declaration of Faith. And their message, it had shifted. It was no longer just about their land. It was a public declaration of faith. Their point was that their ultimate loyalty was to God and that their religion actually forbade them from obeying a state they saw as an occupier. As the speaker tells it, the day ended in tragedy. The protest was met with overwhelming force and was violently suppressed. The account states that many were killed and many more were thrown in prison. Just a really brutal and bloody end to their stand.
But here's the crucial thing in this account. Despite that incredibly violent end, the Ghulja incident isn't framed as a failure at all. No, it's seen as a pivotal sacrifice, one that completely changed the game for the Uyghur struggle.
And this is the legacy, according to the source. It's seen as the event that woke the entire nation up. It made it crystal clear who the enemy was.
It drove home the idea that simply submitting was against their faith. More than anything, it inspired this ongoing resistance and became a source of national honor, saving them, in this view, from the shame of silence. The narrative here is powerful. The bloodshed that day wasn't an ending. It was the seed that grew into a modern movement.
So we've just walked through one very specific commemorative telling of the Ghulja Incident. And it really leaves you with this powerful question, doesn't it? It makes you think about how these stories of the past, especially stories of sacrifice and martyrdom, become the fuel for the struggles of today, shaping identity, honor, and the drive to act for generations to come.